Welcome to the launch event of the Regio1st project. This is the first large-scale event we're hosting in the framework of this project, which is funded by the LIFE program of the European Union. You might have already received some information about the project, but this event is meant to give you deeper knowledge about the activities of the project, its raison d'être in the current context of the European Union. I will have to first tell you that this meeting is being recorded. So please, if you don't want to be recorded, just switch off your camera. Please also bear in mind that you should have your microphone turned off while other people are speaking. I would like first, before starting this event, to thank CINEA, DG Energy of the European Commission and the Covenant of Mayors for participating in this event. So before we start, since we have a very packed agenda, I will not speak more, and I will pass the floor directly to our speakers. Please let me introduce them to you. So the first panel of speakers is composed of Mrs. Nathalie Clicquot. She is project advisor at CINEA. Mr. Vlasis Oikonomou, Managing Director of the Institute for European Energy and Climate Policy, is the coordinator of this project. And the third speaker for this first panel would be Nadège Segel. She is currently a project officer and she works on the Covenant of Mayors. So let's start with our first speaker, Nathalie Clicquot. I will share her presentation with you. Bear with me. Okay. So Nathalie, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the organizer for inviting us, and also to welcome everyone wherever you are in Europe, working on a regional authority or working for a municipality or working in Brussels, maybe closer to us. I'm Nathalie Clicquot. I'm project advisor. I work for the European Climate, Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency. If you can go to the next slide, then. Our agency is supporting the European Green Deal and implementing a portfolio of programs in support of the European Green Deal. Then we are in charge of the legacy of Horizon Europe, Horizon 2020 regarding energy efficiency, but also of a new program, sub-program, which is the LIFE Clean Energy Transition sub-program. This sub-program has a 7 years budget of almost 1 billion euros to create market and regulatory enabling conditions for the clean energy transition. And we focus on the non-technological aspect, and we hope with our projects to contribute to the shift to a circular, energy efficient, renewable, energy-based and climate resilient economy. The next slide, please. I want to let you know that throughout the years now, with our team, we have been supporting cities and regions and their planning processes, and we have a dedicated local topic to support the clean energy transition in cities and region. And so since 2014, we have funded around 45 projects to build capacity and develop energy policies and plan. And you see that we managed to contribute to more than 700 energy policies and plans at this level. If you're interested to learn more about this, we have a result pack with local authorities showing how they can lead the way towards decarbonizing Europe. And we are showcasing here 14 exemplary projects. I want also quickly to mention other initiatives that we are supporting with the European City Facility, which aims to through a lump sum grants to cities and to boost sustainable energy investment at the city level. And we also support the Manage Energy, initiative to empower regions and regional agencies through training, etc. But maybe you can move to the next slide, please. We've also have a much more portfolio supporting the energy efficiency first principle implementation. I'm sure my colleagues from DG NR later will talk more about the policy background on this principle, but we've been supporting this topic with also a dedicated topic under Horizon 2020 and now with LifeSet. And for the moment, this portfolio is focusing on developing assessment methodologies and calculation tools to apply a system approach and to help taking into account the wider benefits of energy efficiency solutions from a societal perspective. And here we have projects like Odyssemur, MICAT, or REFRE, which have dedicated facilities or calculation methods to take this into account. We've also supported projects which are identifying best practices for the implementation of energy efficiency first and supporting the development of frameworks and methodologies. And here I mentioned REPowerEU or ERADATA. These are only a few of the projects we've been supporting. And we expect to because the call was open last year, we expect to select more projects looking more specifically how to operationalize the energy efficiency first principle. Next slide, please. So Regio1st, coming to the launch event, we're really pleased to be here and we're really pleased to be supporting this project. It's the first project which is looking really at raising awareness on the energy efficiency first principle among regional governments and their agencies, and to support them in their decision and especially in their planning procedures. So this is really the key here, how to guide regional authorities to embed the energy efficiency first in their decision-making processes and to implement that in their energy planning. The project will start with 6 pilot regions and aims to expand to more than 100 regions. And I think this is we're really looking forward to see how the project will develop in the coming years and contribute to this important agenda. So welcome again, everyone, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting us. I really look forward to fruitful discussions and to hear how the project is going to move this agenda forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natalie, for this introduction to your activities. Now we will get a deeper look into the activities of the project itself with Vlasis Oikonomou. I will share also his presentation with you.
Okay. Right. So I would like also to welcome everybody from our side. Thank you for the introduction, Natalie and Justine. We are coordinating in the Regio1st project, as it was mentioned. You can see the full title of it, which is implementing the energy efficiency first principle in the regional planning. If we could move on to the next one, just to get some things clear. As there is a lot of misunderstanding and sometimes maybe not a thorough understanding of the first principle, the way that's being formulated. It's already written, in also this developing Article 3 of the EED. I think our colleagues from DG NR will explain more about the negotiation process. That's why we would not really like to stick to one definition as it was before. Maybe things are changing. But the whole idea is, in essence, it's in a principle that balances demand and supply options, prioritize the least expensive investments for the energy system from a whole society's point of view. That's the whole logic and the background logic of that. And there are a lot, of course, of requirements, and the regional requirements are quite important, as it asks actually to use cost-benefit analysis in the planning for regional electricity, gas, hydrogen, and district heating networks to identify the most cost-effective and efficient heat supply demand or through the efficiency in buildings and process. That's the whole blah blah that was written in the new ED, and as I said, we're going to probably hear more about it and how it's being addressed. So this is an important element we have to keep in mind. We always try to compare options. It's not about just promoting energy efficiency here. It's more it's more about comparing options on demand and supply, and from demand side investment and supply side investment, and see which is the most beneficial one from a societal point of view. If you can move on to the next one. What we do then in the Regio1st is these are the 3 key objectives we have, and I'll briefly explain them. As you can see, it's first of all to guide the regions through a decision support process and to apply the first principle. We know that the regions do have their own plans. They have their regional plans. Sometimes they're interconnected with national plans, and they influence also local plans. And what we do here is that we try to go step by step with the regions to help them understand how to implement the principle, how to start quantifying these options, and come up to the most socially beneficial options, especially when it has to be done with subsidy programs or other types of financing streams. The second one is a community of practice. It's already an idea we had started developing in the REPowerEU project, which was mentioned before by Natalie, but here is going more to the regional level. We try to ensure this, that through this practice, we can have a political and societal acceptance. That's the most difficult thing always, we know in these debates. Like, should we authorize, or should we, as from a regional perspective, the decision is often if we should authorize new gas pipelines or we should invest in buildings. It's not so easy, and there is a lot of interest behind. That's why we try to get the social and political acceptance to co-develop all these scenarios, so that the point that we can somehow verify that in the next years things will happen. Then, to support the introduction of REPowerEU in the NECPs, we know there is now the drafting of we'll have drafts of the NECP, so we try to influence that to some extent up to the finalization, to the regional operational programs, and the most important element is the multi-level climate and energy dialogue provision, because that's where the highest difficulties are in implementing the REPowerEU principle from a regional perspective. As we said, it's very much interconnected to a national planning and to local planning. It's not just the region itself. And it has to do with different jurisdictions based on the national laws. Next one, please. Then on the pillars, the way it's being formulated, it's more of a methodological concept. So it's, first of all, we develop the decision support. That's what we do now. We have already asked all the regions participating about the specific needs, about the specific issues that are faced. This is very detailed questions, and it will be discussed in these parts. And we're also developing some tools to help out quantifying these processes. The second one is to test this process in the 6 regions that started the project, and then to upscale it in the overall EU regional framework together with FEDAREN, the other colleagues, and of course the Covenant of Mayors. So we're happy there to have everybody here working with us. And next one, please, on just in the scope. These are the 6 regions I mentioned. We start from these 6 regions. We have this, and we try to upscale up to 100 regional and 120 local agents and authorities. We know we can do it because it's an interesting subject. The AD will be out, so there's lots of debates going on, and people will need more support. And that's why we are planning for this upscaling. The selection of these regions was made on the ground of the different actually planning processes and various investment choices. So we start from the existing plans or the plans under development and try to influence them with the REPowerEU principle. Then next one. And yeah, this is actually who we are as partners. You can see it's a quite diverse partners, regional agencies, FEDAREN, ourselves, and the other institutes. And you can, the last slide is the info on the project. Thank you very much. Okay, it doesn't appear, it's Regio1st. All right.
Thank you very much, Vlasis, for this speedy but efficient introduction. Yeah. So without further ado, I will move to our next speaker, Nadège Segel. She works with me at FEDAREN, and she is also in charge of activities related to the Covenant of Mayors. So she prepared also a presentation, which I will share also. Yes, so Nadège, the floor is yours. Oops, no, that's not the right one, is it? Sorry. Okay.
Okay, so thank you very much, Justine, for the introduction, and welcome everyone. I'm very happy to be with you today. So as Justine was saying, I'm Nadège Segel, and I'm working for the Covenant of Mayors Europe Secretariat on different activities, and including on the energy saving sprint that I will quickly introduce to you now. So next slide, please. So to give you a bit of context, I'll start with the Covenant of Mayors Europe contribution to the REPowerEU initiative. So following the first European Commission communication at the beginning of March 2022, our political board addressed a letter to the European Commission Vice President Frans Timmermans to demonstrate the Covenant of Europe support and commitment to the implementation of the REPowerEU plan. So this letter included 14 recommendations to get Europe on a firm ground toward peace and climate neutrality. The letter underlined that cities are key players when there is an urgent need to take emergency energy-saving measures, but also to plan for energy consumption reductions in the short and mid-term. So next slide, please. Thanks. So later in May, in the scope of the publication of the REPowerEU plan, the Cities Energy Saving Sprint was launched as a joint initiative of the Covenant of Mayors Europe, the European Commission, in particular the DGNR, and the European Committee of the Regions. The main aim of the campaign is to encourage and support cities and municipalities to reduce their energy consumption by providing tips on quick and low-cost measures that they can implement to increase energy savings. The campaign also provides examples of actions taken by cities with the idea to foment local debates on how energy demand can be decreased both in our cities and also in our private lives. Next slide, please. So the campaign was also one of the initiatives promoted in the fact sheet Save Gas for Safe Winter, produced by the European Commission later in July 2022. But more concretely, next slide, please.
Sorry, it's not working.
So more concretely, the initiative focuses on three main activities. One toolkit that includes a list of suggestions or tips on how cities can reduce their energy consumption, and also a repository that includes examples of actions undertaken by European cities in several sectors like lighting, heating, and so on, also on mobility. And we also gathered videos from European mayors or deputy mayors that share the message of why the campaign is important and why they are promoting it, and most importantly, what their city are doing to face the energy crisis. So we have a dedicated playlist on the YouTube channel of the Covenant of Mayors Europe. So yeah, here you can see on the slide the toolkit. Yeah. So you can see the toolkit on the left side and the repository on the right side. So next slide, please. And here you have an overview of the videos we gathered from mayors. So as you may see, we have a quite balanced geographical coverage of Europe and also between small, medium, and large cities. So all the documents of the campaign, including the toolkit and the repository, are available on our website. And if you want to know more about the mayor's actions, I would, of course, recommend to watch the videos and check our repository, but also to join the Covenant of Mayors annual conference on the 30th of March. Next slide, please. So this conference will be the opportunity to hear more concretely how local authorities are responding on different fronts to the ongoing energy crisis. So, for example, how they are accelerating energy efficiency measures, investing more in green and local power generation, or shielding citizens and local businesses from soaring energy prices. And it will also be the occasion for the Covenant community and EU institutions to envision mid to long-term solutions for a deeper societal transformation, shifting away from mainstream consumption behavior to more resource sufficiency. So the event will take place in Brussels on the 30th of March. So to participate, you have to register by Thursday, 23rd of March. So you're very welcome to join. And last slide, please. Yeah, thanks. So here you have some useful links if you want to know more about the Cities Energy Saving Sprint and the Covenant of Mayors Europe and how to join both initiatives. So if you have questions or anything, do not hesitate to contact me or Como Europe by email if needed. All the contact details are on the slides that you will have, I think, after this this meeting. So that will be it from my side. Over to you, Justine.
Thank you very much, Nadej. Yes, indeed, as Nadej mentioned, the slides of all of our speakers will be distributed to you by email after this meeting, so you get all the information. So without further ado, I'm sorry, we have a bit of a delay. So we will go to our next speaker, Weronika Jirkova from DG Energy of the European Commission. She gave us the honor to accept this invitation to talk a bit more about the Energy Efficiency Directive recast, and particularly the Energy Efficiency First principle. As you know, this principle is gaining more and more momentum. So just as energy efficiency in the current context with the energy crisis and all the repercussions of the war in Ukraine. So I will let Mrs. Jirkova guide you a bit more through the Energy Efficiency First principle. She also prepared a presentation which I will share with you. Mrs. Jirkova, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Justine. Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here as well. My name is Weronika Jirkova, and I'm a policy officer at DG Ener. I work at the Energy Efficiency Unit, and I'm part of the team which is currently negotiating the EED recast proposal. And among other things, I'm responsible for Article 3, which lays down the requirements for the application of the Energy Efficiency First principle. So I was asked here to provide an update on the negotiations, but also let's say, in general, on the policy developments of this principle. So I will first tell you more about the negotiations, which are still ongoing. So there are some limits as to what I can disclose, but I will try to give you a glimpse into how it looks. Then I will very briefly sum up the article as in the original Commission proposal and what might be the outcome of the negotiations, how it might be amended. So you can go to the next slide, please. So the ED recast negotiations, as I said, they are still ongoing. I'm sure that you all know that the Energy Efficiency Directive recast proposal was part of the Fit for 55 package, which was published in July 2021. And in the first year following the publication, both of the co-legislators prepared their position for the negotiations. So the Council adopted the general approach in June last year, and the Parliament adopted their report in September. And so the negotiations themselves started in September last year under the Czech presidency. Their aim was to conclude the negotiations still last year, but this proved to be unattainable. So the negotiations still continue under the Swedish presidency. There are 2 more trilogues planned at the beginning of March, and the aim is to close the negotiations before the electricity market design proposal is published in March. So we all hope this is going to be possible, because the Swedish presidency will then put on hold the negotiations on the Fit for 55 package, notably not just the EED, but also the Renewable Directive, and will focus on the electricity market design. So we have 2 more weeks ahead of us to close the negotiations. And some of the issues which are still open are the most political issues. So that's the energy efficiency target in the Article 4, and also the energy savings obligation in Article 8. Also some of the elements of the provisions on the exemplary role of the public sector. When it comes to the Article 3, provisional agreement has been found under the Czech presidency, but we always like to recall that nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. So I will tell you a little bit more about the provisional agreement without disclosing too much information later. But first of all, I would like to just very briefly recall the Commission proposal in the Article 3. So we can go to the next slide. Basically, the energy efficiency first principle was first introduced in 2015. And it has been around for a long time, but we saw that more was needed because there were no concrete mechanisms for its application. The current EED already states that it contributes to the application of the energy efficiency first principle, but there were no concrete mechanisms or requirements. So that's why in the EED recast, we introduced a new dedicated article to ensure that the principle is really applied. And we can sum it up in 3 main requirements. So the first one, the first one is that we ask member states to apply the energy efficiency first principle in planning, policy, and major investment decisions, both in energy systems, but also in non-energy sectors which have impact on energy consumptions. So this is industry, this is transport, this is buildings, and of course, transmission and distribution of energy. Maybe here I would just like to say that the application of the principle doesn't mean that energy efficiency is always chosen as the solution. This was already rightly pointed out by Vlasis. But what we are asking is that energy efficiency solutions are assessed and taken into account when there is planning or any major investment decision in these sectors. So really, it's about assessing the costs and benefits from a societal perspective. The second requirement, we are asking member states to verify the application of the principle, because we know that monitoring and verification is key if we want to ensure the application. And the second requirement is threefold. There's a requirement for member states that when they apply the principle, they first of all promote cost-benefit assessments, which take into account wider benefits of energy efficiency from the societal perspective. So this means that the decision whether to implement energy efficiency solutions is not just a question of money. It's not just from an investor's perspective, let's say, but we also ask decision makers to look at environmental benefits. We ask them to look at health benefits, job creation, wider benefits of energy efficiency. The second requirement, we ask member states to identify a monitoring entity which will monitor and verify the application of the principle. Here, to decrease the administrative burden, we are not asking to create a new entity, but just to pick one which is already existing. And this entity will be responsible for the monitoring. And last but not least, there is a requirement for member states to report in their NECP progress reports on how the principle was taken into account. So this was the original Commission proposal. Now we can go to the next slide. As I already said, a provisional agreement was reached under the Czech presidency. We do not expect it to change, but as I already mentioned, nothing is agreed until everything is agreed, and the negotiations are still ongoing. The main issue proved to be the threshold to define the major investment. So as I already mentioned previously, the main requirement for member states is to apply the principle in policy, planning, and major investment decisions. In the original Commission proposal, there were no thresholds. There is simply, in the article itself, there is only a recital, the recital number 14, where we kind of specify what a major investment decision is. And this is in line with the thresholds which are used for structural funds. And their major investment decision is a large-scale investment with a value of more than 50 million euros or 75 million euros for transport infrastructure project. And this proved to be the most contentious issue between the co-legislators, because the European Parliament in its report rather supports these thresholds from the original Commission proposal, whereas the Council in their general approach proposed to increase the thresholds threefold. And as I said, I can't disclose the agreement, but the way it looks is that the thresholds are going to be inserted in the article itself, so not just remain in the recital, but they will be inserted in the article, and it's very likely that they will be increased. So the other provisions in the provisional agreement have not been amended significantly, but really the main issue in the negotiations seem to be the threshold for the definition of major investment. But of course, it still remains to be seen. Hopefully the deal will be reached at the beginning of March and then made publicly available. So now we can go to the next slide. And I would just like to tell you a bit more about the next steps. So if the Swedish presidency reaches the end of the negotiations in March, then we can expect the formal adoption of the directive recast in September. And we have already started the preparation of guidance notes for the transposition of the provisions of the EED recast. Just to let you know that we are planning stakeholder meetings in April for the different guidance notes. But of course, it all depends on whether the deal will be sealed in March. Apart from the directive, we are also preparing a publication of sector-specific guidelines on the energy efficiency first, still this year. You might know that the Commission published already in September 2021 a recommendation and guidelines on the application of the principle. And so this sector-specific guidelines are a follow-up to the first guidelines, and the aim is to be more detailed. And last but not least, given the potential that there is for the application of the principle in the financial sector, the Commission set up a working group in the framework of EFIC, which is the Energy Efficiency Financial Institutions Group. And the working group has been working on recommendations on how to apply the principle in the financial sector. And the final report is now being finalized, and it will be submitted to the Commission in April. So these are some of the next steps that can be expected on the policy side. And that's all from my side for today. If you have any questions, either now or later, you can get in touch with me. And over to you, Justine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Veronica. I think it was a very broad overview, but still very useful to understand a bit more what this principle means. Because the aim of the project is actually to really translate the principle from just a principle to an action at the regional level, at least. So without further ado, we will go straight into our roundtable. We have our colleague and fellow partner of our project, Michael Dorham from the Southeast Energy Agency, who will chair this roundtable. This roundtable is aimed to focus more on the regional perspective and to give more light to what is being done in the regions. We will have representatives of 4 of the 6 pilot regions of the project. You will be able to ask questions in the chat. So we will keep the questions for the end, but please do not hesitate to write questions, and please specify to whom these questions are directed so that the speakers could answer straight away. So Michael, are you here? Are you ready?
I am, Justine. Thank you very much.
Okay, so over to you.
Okay, you've got a round table now for about 50 or 55 minutes. We've got 3 people, 3 speakers who are going to speak initially about how they're finding the implementation of the Energy First principle in their area. So I'm going to introduce them one by one. We've got 3 speakers this morning. We've got Dr. Sofia Natalia Boemi, who's from the bioeconomy and environment cluster of Western Macedonia. We've got Alan Visnic, who's a director of MENEA in Croatia. And we've also got a third person who'll be the first one to speak, who'll be Dr. Maria Bellarmina Diaz Aguado, who is from the government of Asturias. So the way we're going to run this is I'm going to talk to each of them individually for about 4 or 5 minutes, just about how Energy First principle is being delivered in their area. One of the things that most of you will already be aware of, and certainly since this project started, it's something that I've become very aware of, is that the application of the principle is very uneven in different areas. So some of the regions who are already partners in the project are finding that there is a tremendous amount of engagement already at a policy level with the Energy First principle, and others are saying, no, we're having to speak to local and regional authorities who actually don't know what we're talking about. So there's a complete range, and this is something that the project itself is going to have to address. So I'm just going to talk to people individually about what they're finding in their country. So I'm going to start first of all with Maria. Maria is the Director General of Energy Mining in Asturias. She's got a PhD in engineering and mining. She's been involved in a lot of policy development. She's currently involved in the Territorial Just Transition Plan of Asturias, the Regional Energy Just Transition Strategy of Asturias, and the Strategy of Raw Materials in Asturias. So she has a lot of involvement and understanding both of policy development, policy delivery, and also of energy efficiency. So I'm going to start, first of all, Maria, you're very welcome to the roundtable.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for your kind invitation.
You're very welcome, Maria. Thank you very much. I've got a couple of quick questions for you. In Asturias, because I've already said there's a very mixed application of the Energy First principle, do you think that there's a recognition and an implementation of the Energy First principle already in your area?
Yes, I would say there is. It's true, we have been developing different strategies, but above all, two of them, very important strategies, the Energy Just Transition Strategy and also the Renovation of Buildings Strategy. And for both of them, I would say that there has been a high commitment with energy efficiency. So we could say that there is also already a lot that has been done, and also there is budget for these strategies. So we could say that there are actions going on in the region.
Okay, when you're saying that there's a lot of activity in the energy efficiency, do you think that that is just as a result of the recent geopolitical problems, the problems in Ukraine, the shortage of energy supply, which is driving people towards energy efficiency? Or is it that the energy efficiency policy is working? So is it external factors which are pushing the market, or do you think that there's a realization that policy is effective?
Okay, I think that it was already going on, but it's true that the external events have pushed forward these strategies and have pushed forward this action. For example, the Just Transition Energy Strategy of the region was very focused on just transition, on that concept, and very focused on employment and people. So we were thinking a lot of hydrogen, for example, renewable energies, and we had some principles related or measures related with energy efficiency. We had as many as 10 measures related with energy efficiency, for example, in industry, in transport, in buildings. We had the concrete measure of reducing primary energy demand in the region up to 26% to 2030. We had also the objective of reducing final energy consumption more than 9 points for 2030. But it's true that besides these 10 measures, we didn't have specific objectives in energy efficiency, because this, sorry, there's somebody talking. Yes, yes, because these specific objectives in energy efficiency were assumed as part of the
national Maria, I think it's
Yeah. Sorry, there is somebody talking.
You're okay. I think you're okay, Maria. Keep going.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So yeah, I was saying that we didn't have the specific number of energy efficiency inside the strategy, because we were assuming the national strategies, the national plan for energy and climate, which was very ambitious. So we didn't have this specifically. However, we made a specific strategy for renovation of buildings, and also we made a plan, a regional plan, and this last one was an effect of the war of Ukraine, a plan for energy efficiency in public buildings. So I would say it's half and half. But as a summary, I would like to give you some numbers of what are the calls we are currently running in the region related to energy efficiency. And in the year 2022 and 2023, we are currently having calls for more than 170 million euros. We have 110 million euros for renovation of buildings, for energy efficiency in buildings in these 2 years. We have 40 millions in energy efficiency in industry, big and small companies. We have 18.5 millions in mobility in transport, and we have 6 million of regional budget, our own budget, for energy efficiency in general. So as I'm saying, we are managing a lot of calls with a lot of money, with a lot of funds, and we are seeing a very, very good response from the industry, from the transport, and some of them are almost without money before the end of the calls. So I would say that there are many actions going on and many companies involved in this energy efficiency, also because the cost of energy is very high. So for them, it's not only a commitment with transition or with climate, but also economic, an important effect.
Maria, the figures that you've given us are really helpful to give us an overview of what you're doing and your level of commitment in Asturias. Can I just ask you, because this is my ignorance, how big is Asturias in terms of people? What's the population, so that we can relate the figures to the number of people that you've got?
Yes, I could say that we are less than 1 million people. We were above 1 million and we lost population. So we are now a bit less than 1 million people. And normally to Asturias, it's 2% of the national gross development product, or the national, whatever figures we use, what corresponds to Asturias. And I can say to you that this 2% that they normally give us or allocate us in terms of funds, we normally multiply that by 2 or by 6, depending on what line. For example, in transport, we multiply that by 2.2, but in a renovation of buildings by almost 6, and in energy efficiency, we multiply that by 10. So in energy efficiency in industries. So I would say that it's really important to see how this is being developed in the region. I have to say, by each euro we give in a grant, we get an investment of, depending on what line, 3 to 5 euros. So really the investment related to this funding is very, very important. For example, in energy efficiency in industry, with this 40 million, we are attracting an investment of over 250 million euros. So this is really very important, not only as the importance of energy saving, the importance of energy efficiency, which I know is the aim of the meeting today, but also the importance of this in reactivation of territories in transition and economic activity.
Maria, thank you very much. I'm aware that you probably have to leave this meeting early. It's now 11:15. What time will you be leaving us?
I will leaving around 25 to 12, 20 to 12. So I will be here to listen to my colleagues as long as possible and to answer online if any question.
Great. I will ask anybody who has any specific questions for Maria to put them up online. She'll be with us for about another 20 or 25 minutes, and we'll try and get back to her before she leaves. We're now going to move over. Maria, thank you very much indeed.
There is actually a question, if you don't mind, Michael, before.
Oh, go for it, Justine. Thank you very much.
So Jean-Sébastien Brock from IECP has written in the chat, thanks a lot for the very interesting information, Maria, about the major developments on energy efficiency program. Can the impact of the projects funded be taken into account in the forecast of the future energy demand? So
Sorry,
Marie,
can you repeat, please?
Can the impacts of the projects funded be taken into account in the forecast of the future energy demand?
Yes, yes. I mean, of course, they can be taken into account. Yes, because these, these projects always have, let's say, a commitment with energy efficiency. They are only funded when they fulfill the requirements of energy efficiency. So they need to be to develop this decrease in energy consumption to be funded. And they can, of course, be part of this energy demand in the future. This is a very important part for us. Actually, the strategy I was telling you before, we are revising it. And we plan to revise that by the end of this year, beginning of 2024. And in this revision of the regional strategy for just transition, just energy transition, we want to include already these figures of energy efficiency. And we want to be, of course, aligned with all these works we are doing at the European level and with the Energy First principle. So for us, it's very important to include that, of course.
Thank you for the answer. And there's another one before we move to the next speaker. Another question from Marilyn Labasque. What is the level of commitment or concern of your citizens in Asturias concerning your multiple EE programs, your multiple programs on energy efficiency? What is your point of view?
I would say that the concern is really high because Asturias is a region in transition, but it's also in transition by three reasons: coal mines closing, coal power plants closing, but also a very important industry sector with high energy consumption and with high emissions. So the concern is very high because the industrial potential of the region is very important, and this affects a lot the industry. And the commitment, I would say, has been really high. As I was saying, we opened these programs, for example, the one in energy efficiency for industry, and we received many applications for this funding, and we normally use the totality of the funding. We never have money left. And actually, for example, in energy efficiency for industry, we had to ask the national government for funding 3 more times because we spent all the money allocated very fast. I would say we were the region in spending that the fastest region in Spain, and also in renovation of buildings. It's true we have very old buildings, that's true, but we are working a lot in renovation of buildings, and we use the money very fast. I would say there is a huge concern, and they see this as an opportunity in transition for saving energy, and also, as I was saying, for reactivation.
Thank you very much for your answers, and yeah, please, if you can stay a bit longer, we'll be pleased to still have you on the table. So Michael, over to you again. Sorry for the
Maria,
interruption.
muchas gracias. Adios. Okay, we're now going to move over to Alan Visnich. Alan is a partner within the project. He's from Croatia. He's director of the energy agency Minea, which is based in Međimurje. I hope I've pronounced that correct, Alan. He has a lot of experience, particularly in practical application and delivery of projects. So his background is as an electrical engineer, but he's been involved both in project management on national and EU programs, and has already participated in many EU-funded projects. He's also a regular speaker, both nationally and internationally, at seminars, workshops, and expert conferences. He's also active on local, regional, and national level in the development of planning and strategies. So, Alan, you're very welcome to the roundtable this morning. How are you?
Thank you very much. Greetings to all of you from Čakovec, Croatia.
Great, Alan, thank you very much. I've got a couple of questions for you. The first one is about, you particularly have a lot of experience in delivering energy refurbishment projects. But the implementation of the Energy First principle, which is what we're working on within the Regio1st project, it's relatively new to Croatia. And do you think it'll be difficult to persuade the relevant authorities to recognize the importance of the principle? How are you going to go about this?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good point. For the start, let me do some kind of a brief introduction. We've been involved into the energy refurbishment of public buildings and doing a lot of energy refurbishment in the last 5 years. And it's over 15 million euros in total investment. So it proves that we are on a good way in delivering energy efficiency first principle, or I could at least say that we partly adopted it. And I'm saying only about the regional government. So we have also local government, and some energy refurbishment projects are ongoing or was already done in local. So the numbers are even higher. Then just to have the overview of our region, we are a small region in the very north of Croatia. We have 730 square kilometers of total area and around 110,000 inhabitants. But the energy efficiency first is not only energy refurbishment, even though we've been carrying out comprehensive energy refurbishments, not just constructive works, but also mechanical and electrical systems in buildings are being renovated, and we are using new technologies and renewable energy sources such as heat pumps, PVs, ventilation with heat recovery, solar collectors for domestic hot water, etc. Nevertheless, as already mentioned, in energy efficiency first, there are two sides. So we have both demand, but also a supply side. And in my opinion, there is still room for the progress and still room and fields where we can act. And whether we like it or not, but the overall situation nowadays within the climate change, prices of energy sources, energy security might make our work when convincing relevant authorities a bit easier, because there are not many options. And this is why we joined the project, and we are looking forward to gather new knowledge and to try to implement the energy efficiency first principle as a whole.
You've already, obviously the project has only started within the last 3 or 4 months. And one of the things that most of the people on this call will not be aware of is that we're all within each region, we're trying to build up stakeholder groups who can help us implement and deliver the energy first principle. Can I ask you, how are you getting on with that? Are you getting a good response to something that most people probably don't know a lot about in Croatia?
Well, we are established, as I mentioned or not, but we are established 15 years ago. We are having an anniversary on 6th of March, so very soon. So 15 years of working in the field of energy, and we are established by a regional government, and we are 100% owned by a county. So it's quite obvious that the most influence we have on the regional government. When mapping stakeholders, we focus mostly on regional and local stakeholders. So there is the most room to have progress or make changes on the regional level, but there are also 25 municipalities within our region, and activities of those are usually overlapping or have to be aligned or have to be coordinated with regional governments. So I suppose it's everywhere else like that, and there is more and more interest from them in our services nowadays. And I think that we also have a little bit of influence on their decisions. And the less accessible is, of course, not national level, but I would not say there isn't any access.
Okay, again, this is very interesting and I think relevant to a lot of people on this call, because we've got very different situations in different regions. And already what Maria and Alan have been talking about are two very different situations from two different delivery bodies, both believing in the importance of the energy first principle, but having different ways of delivering that policy and of delivering it on the ground. So Alan, thank you very much. We'll come back to you later. Just before I move on to the third speaker, can I ask, are there any other questions for Alan at this stage before we move on to Natalia? Justine, are there any questions on the chat line?
No, on the chat line, there's no question for Alan.
That's great. Alan, thank you very much. We'll be back to you soon. Okay, we're now going to move on to our third member of the roundtable. This is Dr. Sofia Natalia Buemi, who's from the Bioeconomy and Environment Cluster of Western Macedonia. She's a senior project manager at the Cluster of Bioeconomy, and she's an environmental engineer. She has a doctorate, PhD in energy and environmental management of building work. She's also been very involved in energy-related investments at both at a national, regional, and local level. And she's active in an area called Kozani, which I hope, again, I've pronounced correctly, which is one of the 100 cities which aims to be climate neutral by 2030. So, Natalia, you're very welcome to the roundtable discussion this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for being here. And also, Klube, it's a member of the consortium of Regio1st. And we are here as a part of not only of the consortium, but also one of the being cluster. You know, we have as members the municipality, all the municipalities of the region of Western Macedonia, and several companies around the Western Macedonia, which is the coldest area in Greece. So imagine that even though we focus on energy transition and energy efficiency, we don't need air conditioning during summer. So that's something interesting.
Natalia, thank you very much. I'm going to start with your climate neutral ambition, because you've already said that as within Kozani, that you're trying to be climate neutral by 2030. And what actions that you think are required for the delivery of that target are specifically related to energy efficiency. So obviously energy efficiency is only part of the solution, but how are you going to do that, and how important is energy efficiency within that climate neutrality?
Okay. Please let me thank you for your question. As municipality of Kozani is not something new of having several actions about being climate neutral. It's in fact it started its actions of climate neutrality in 2012. Since it is a member of the Covenant of Mayors. They have a variety of targeted policies, so they have succeeded in the last 10 years to have a significant reduction of about 33% of CO2 emissions. And also they have a significant reduction of CO2 emissions and in private buildings, not just to many sectors. That is about 46.2%. Now, concerning the steps and the pathway of becoming climate neutral by 2030, the municipality started by creating a team, a Mission of Kozani team, which is engaged in networking with local, regional, and national stakeholders, using the experience in implementing large-scale projects in order to facilitate the decision-making, integration, and create synergies with other policy frameworks. In fact, the climate stakeholder ecosystem of Kozani includes all parts of the quadruple helix, which is the academia, the research, the local authorities, the enterprises, and of course, the local society. You cannot do anything if the citizens are not involved. The municipality of Kozani, in cooperation with Klube, is a multi-actor platform for cooperation that are uniquely placed to cultivate cooperation among these groups. The sectors that will focus, it's the stationary energy, which is the building, the equipment, and the facility. Specifically for the building sector, we include all the permanent temporary structures, facilities or equipment and public lighting within the city's boundaries, which include the residential, the commercial, the industrial, the municipal buildings and facilities. We have the transportation, which is the mobility sector. We have the waste. We have the energy production from renewables. I'm not sure if you are familiar, but at the moment, the Western Macedonia is in fact a PV valley, a valley full of photovoltaics and energy communities and many PV parks. It will also focus on land and forestry, and last but not least, it will focus on digital transition. And as I mentioned before, the most critical part in all those sectors are how the citizens will be involved in driving the systematic transformations towards climate neutrality. And that's it. And
okay.
Just one thing more, that I think that the promotion, since we are members of the Regio1st project, just the promotion of the principle of energy efficiency first is also for the goal of the municipality in order to have an effective climate neutral contract.
Okay, you've just led me into my next question very well, Natalia. I think you're able to read minds, because it's the relationship between policy interventions and practical delivery. From what you've just been talking about, there already seems to be a high level of buy-in from citizens about energy efficiency in your region. They're already active in being part of the solution, which is great. But I wonder, do they see, and do you see, obviously you're part of the Regio1st, so you see value in promoting the energy first principle. But do you think that most people have any interest in that principle, or do they just want to see the practical implementation of things on the ground and they don't care where the policy comes from? It's a slightly odd question.
No, it's not an odd question. It's a question about if the citizens are involved in what we are doing. And the citizens are involved because they wanted the climate neutrality. In fact, even now that we have the carnival, cities are engaged on the in the green actions about having that will be implemented during the carnival. And also, as you already know, energy efficiency first principle means taking utmost account of the cost-efficient energy efficiency measures in shaping energy policy and making relevant investment decisions. What the city of Kozani has done has created the first energy local community for the coverage of municipal energy needs through virtual net metering, which is something that is for the promotion of renewables. So the citizens are already aware that they are trying to reduce the energy bills and try to promote the energy efficiency first. Also, the municipality is in progress of the energy upgrade of 9 school buildings and 3 kindergartens. Also, we will install 2 PV stations in school buildings of the municipality of Kozani, and we will upgrade not also the local swimming pool, but also an indoor sports hall. So all those actions are for the citizens. So all the money that we attract from the national funds and also from other Horizon projects that we have, like the Ice Hearts Hands or the ProLight project, have specific demo sites or lighthouse sites that they are for the citizens. So they are part of what we are trying to transform. And
Natalia, thank you very much. I'm going to come back to you in a minute.
Okay.
I'm aware that Maria is going to have to leave us soon. I have one quick question for her before I go. And it's something you were talking about earlier, Maria. You said that you in Asturias seem to have the ability to get the money out the door very quickly. That when you've got a fund of money for something specific, that you are usually able to spend it. I've been warned by Federer not to speak because I can talk all day, but I want to just give you a quick idea. Within Ireland, part of the issue is that there are funds available at a national level, but sometimes they're very hard to access. And at the end of the year, very often to do with renewable energy and energy efficiency in Ireland, those budgets are underspent. How do you manage that? Is it that you're efficient in getting the money out the door, or is it because there's a demand for it, or is it, do you have a magic wand? What's the solution, Maria?
Well, it's difficult to say. It's difficult to manage too, because we don't have so many people. I would say there is a mixture of things. First of all, the commitment of the team. And I have to say that every day and everywhere. We have a wonderful team made of wonderful people who are very committed with this. And sometimes they have to work in specific periods of time, more than usual, to get things done. And they do it. So that's the first point. But also I have to say that the national government is very proactive in helping us, in sending more money when needed, and in attending all our demands in that sense, specifically the Ministry for Ecological Transition and the Institute for Diversification and Energy Saving. And in third place, I have to say that also the companies. Asturias is a very small region. We all know each other, but the commitment of companies and also of consultancies with energy transition and with energy efficiency is really very, very high and very remarkable. So I think that the three things together, I'm looking to my colleague Indalecio who's sitting next to me, but I think the three things together are very important to develop all these actions in time and to be successful in this. Now we have the Just Transition Fund arriving in the region, 263 million euros. And this is going to be a huge challenge that we are already working in. But I think that the three things are very important, Michael.
Okay, I have to say that the size of the figures that you're talking about for the population just seem to me to be astronomically high. You're very, very active in the field. So Maria, I'm aware that you have to go. Thank you very much for joining us today. Okay, we're going to move on. We've still got about 20 minutes left. I would encourage you to put up questions on the chat line, but in the meantime, I just want to go back to the previous speakers. I'm not sure if Nadej, Vlasis, Natalie are still with us, or Veronika. I think Veronika is, because I see that she's been posting something. Veronika, you're answering if you're still with us. You were answered a question about the relationship between renewable energy and energy efficiency. If you're still with us, I wonder, would you like to talk about that for a minute, please?
Yes, of course. Sorry, I'm just putting my camera back on.
That's fine. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah. So as I said earlier in my presentation, sometimes when we talk about energy efficiency first, people think it means that energy efficiency is always the preferred solution. So this is not the case, as I already explained. For us, it means assessing. First of all, take into account energy efficiency solutions in the planning and policy and major investment decisions, basically to assess the costs and benefits. But when energy efficiency is identified as the most, let's say, as the best solution, it doesn't mean that renewables cannot be, that energy efficiency is, let's say, the first priority and renewables second. It's not supposed to create a trade-off between these two. So, because we look at the primary energy factors, I would say. So it's always preferable to deploy renewable energy to other, let's say, more energy consuming carriers. So to say it very bluntly, energy efficiency is not against renewables.
Great, thank you very much indeed, Veronika. I just see again if Nadej is still with us. Nadej, could you comment? You were asked a question about, again, the relationship between the Covenant of Mayors. I wonder if you could just talk about that again for a moment, please, if you're still with us, and then Vlasis, I'll come back to you. Nadej.
I think Nadej is unfortunately joining another meeting now, Michael.
That's fine. Okay, yeah. Vlasis, over to you. I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah. Just following up to what Veronique said, that it's good. The question normally that will come to the regions is whether, based on the REPowerEU principle, they should prioritize, I guess, solar PVs, because that's what it's about, mainly all the question, I guess, in the end, or refurbishment of buildings and all these energy efficiency actions. Indeed, it's perfectly clear that there is no competition between those two, and we just have to prioritize and evaluate based on the social cost benefit, as we have indicated, that that's what we are going to do, and some criteria that will be set, taking into account the multiple benefits from energy efficiency and the other technologies. So if it is a choice, let's say, between where to spend the funds between solar PVs for rooftop PVs or energy efficiency, perhaps we need there to evaluate if the solar PVs in the households are meant to reduce the energy consumption in a way, so they are connected to the grid for energy consumption or going to the national grid. That could be a criterion for selection. So in a nutshell, I mean, I would say that the PVs in the way, or if that's the dilemma always about setting, rooftop PVs in the households, where to invest or energy efficiency, both should be examined on a fair ground, because the one can also benefit and enhance the other. There is no one, let's say, annihilating the other. Okay.
Vlasis, thank you very much. Vlasis, while we've got you live on the line, can I just ask another question? Obviously, today we are launching the Regio. This is the official launch of the Regio1st project. I wonder, could you take a minute or two now and explain to the people online, particularly to the people who are not already partners within the project, how can they benefit from the project? How can they contact us? What can we do for them? I'm afraid to send an invitation to the world and we end up with 4,000 applications to join the project. So I'm handing it over to you in case it goes terribly wrong. So Vlasis, what do you think is the best way that people can engage with the project?
Yeah, first of all, you also have our emails now, and you have the contact details of the project, so or you can log in, of course, to the website. How you benefit, because I think that's the most important part. How you benefit is that we have 6 testing grounds already for how the REPowerEU principle can be applied. You, as new regions, as I see the majority of here are regional representatives, you can also take stock from how we operate, meaning what type of tools can be used. It will be public tools, and you will have guidance to use them. And these tools will help you carry out eventually some cost effectiveness analysis and cost benefit analysis on the various options. Also, you will have a decision support process which can be easily embedded. It will be like a plug and play issue in the end of the day. That's what we envisage to take it. And you'll be able to use it and adapt it within your decision-making framework. So, for instance, if you are a region who doesn't have the mandate to take decisions on if a gas infrastructure will pass from your region or not, but it's up to the country of the national government, then of course we can adapt, and this decision support process will be adapted to address that. If you do have power to do it, again, the decision support process will be adapted to your needs and how to be done. So I would say that you have our names, contact us. What we need from you is, in essence, to see your regional plan. That will be our first primary point, to see what are your targets, what you envisage, what you achieve to have, to get in terms of renewable energy production, of energy efficiency, or climate targets. And then we can all sit down and work together and see how it will be best done, taking into account the REPowerEU principle. So it's a learning process for all. We start with a testing ground, and we'll try to help out all the regions and all of you to adapt your planning process to better address the REPowerEU. And actually, the reason why we say about this REPowerEU is not only about the legislation, is the Article 3, which is of course an important point, but by using the REPowerEU principle, it's proven that we take into account the social cost benefits. So the welfare, that's what you need in the essence to achieve for your citizens as regions. And that's where we are here to help you to see which are the best decisions for you, taking into account the overall societal benefits of such decisions on energy efficiency or other types of energy production or energy supply.
Vlasis, thank you very much. Natalia, I'm going to come back to you with a related question to what Vlasis has just been talking about. And it's to do with the relationship between local, regional, and national involvement. Again, both the partners within Regio1st and the people on this call are a range. Some are able to act at a local level, some have the ability to act at a regional level, and there are some people who act at a national level. How are you managing that within Clube, just within what sits in front of you? Do you have the ability to influence at a national level? How do things operate for you? And Alan, I'm going to ask you the same question in a minute, because I think you're in a very different situation. So Natalia.
Since we are one of the we are the only Greek region that we are phasing out of coal, the only energy transition region, and also we are one of the 5 pilot regions at EU level. I think that we really influence what the government is trying to do, or what the state is trying to do in the perspective of energy transition, and focusing mostly on renewables. So that's why many funds, and we have the transition funds, are in this process. Not only the national funds about energy efficiency, but also there are specific other funds just to assist us in delivering the process of energy transition. And also, I think that we are really influencing in the part of energy efficiency or energy in general aspect, because we are one of the first regions that it tends to be it tends to and have have already implemented some hydrogen projects.
Okay. Okay, Alan, same question for you. How do you, I know the situation is very different in Croatia. You still see yourself as a fairly big player in the market in Croatia, but what's the relationship for you at a local, regional and national level? Is it part of what Minea does, or does it come down to individuals like you and your involvement maybe at a national level?
Okay, I described the influence. Now I will say it more related to planning. So we are developing the regional energy efficiency action plans for a region, so for the regional government, because they have to develop it due to the law. And we've been doing that for more than 10 years. We've been also involved as Minea into developing CCAPs or seats previously for the local authorities, for the municipalities or cities, towns. And we've also been invited into national working groups when developing national plans, NSCPs and so on. So yes, we have some influence on the national level, but the most on regional and local. And when, for example, making an annual budget on a regional level, we are always called to give our proposals and to somehow create the next year or next 3 years and how the things are going to go regarding the energy efficiency and renewables. So yeah, we have some influence here, of course.
Okay, Alan, thank you very much. Okay, we've still got about 10 minutes to go. I don't see any other questions on the chat line. We can finish early. Can I just ask if anybody has a question that they would like to pose online, if you could just put your hand up and we'll come straight to you and maybe give you the floor, and you can either comment on something that you've heard today or maybe ask a question. Can I ask, is there anybody who wishes to put their hand up? Justine, can you see?
I think there was a question posted a while ago, actually, on the chat by Jean-Sébastien Brock. Let me find it again. Yes.
Thank you very
much.
So
this is addressed to Natalia. So Natalia, thanks for providing another example of very proactive local authority. Did the municipality, I assume you refer to Kozani, did the municipality face some challenges to fund all these projects, meaning renovation of buildings, installing PVs? And if so, how do you prioritize such projects? So Natalia, if you want to answer.
Yes, please.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. As I mentioned before, Kozani, it's not something new. It's a pioneer city. So we have started all those aspects about energy efficiency and energy neutrality since 2012. But as Vlast mentioned before, what was really important for the city of Kozani, and since we are mainly one of the we are a city that really focused on the mines and people that really live in the region, mostly work on the mines that has coal. So every time that the municipality has to make a decision, every time it's a social cost benefit decision. So that's why all the actions, as I mentioned, was about schools, mostly about schools, about municipal buildings that they are open to the public, which like the sports hall or the local pool. So that's the prioritization. And also in cooperation with Clube, we were trying to create, as I mentioned, the demo sites. So in those demo sites, we focused on residential buildings or residential areas or social housing areas, just to help the vulnerable people. So everything it's about the citizens and how we could involve them. That was the main decision process.
Natalia, thank you very much indeed. I see there's another question in here from Marilyn, and Vlasis, I'm going to direct this towards you. So if you could just switch your microphone and your screen back on, please. This is from Marilyn Lebasque. Would it be helpful to centralize and share all of the energy efficiency learning lessons across the diverse European regions and cities so that we could act faster? Vlasis. Have we lost Vlasis?
Sorry, can you please repeat, because there was a connection problem? Tell me once.
Sorry, I apologize, Vlasis. This is a question from the floor from Marilyn Lebasque, and I think you're probably best placed to answer it. It's a question basically to the project. Would it be helpful to centralize and share all of the energy efficient learning lessons across the diverse European regions and cities so far so that we could act faster? So they're saying, what can we do for them? How can we share what we're talking about today?
Yeah, okay. Within our activities, we have envisaged something like that, where the knowledge will be centralized and will be spread across all the regions. As you saw in the beginning, we said we are trying to aim for 100 regions, and hopefully that will be the minimum number. And it means that the knowledge will be there, customized per type of region, per size of region, I guess, and also per type of planning. We're trying to find out what would be the best way for that. But for sure, it will be centralized so that you can cross-compare what is feasible or what is not. I mean, it's pointless to compare a region with 1 million citizens with a region of 10 million citizens, for example. It doesn't make sense. Or with a complete citizen, with a region which is, let's say, 90% with coal or oil, with a region which is fully renewable. It would not make so much sense. That's why we'll try to customize and categorize the various activities and the various options you can select in your cost-benefit analysis or in your planning for the cost-benefit analysis, based on the conditions of each region. And I think that will be the end product, one of the end products.
Vlasis, thank you very much. And Marilyn, thank you very much for your question. Okay, I'm going to wrap up the table discussion at this point. If there are any other pressing questions, you've got about 5 seconds to get them up on the chat line, because I'm now going to hand back to Justine. Before I do that, I just want to say thank you very much for all of you for attending. Thank you to Natalia and Alan for their contribution. They're both partners within Regio1st, so they're very involved, and I'm sure they won't mind if you have a question which relates to the position that they're in. I'm sure they'll be more than happy to answer the question. So I want to thank Alan, Natalia and Maria, who has already left us. And Justine, I'm now handing back to you to wrap up. Thank you, Justine.
Thank you so much, Michael, for this very interesting roundtable. Thanks to all of you for joining. You've been very numerous in joining us today, and so we're very pleased to see the interest in the project and in energy efficiency and the energy efficiency first principle in general. Thank you particularly to Natalie Clicquot from CINEA, to Veronica from DG Ener, and from all the colleagues from the live program for the support and for participating in this event. So just to wrap up, I would just encourage you to follow the activities of the project through our webpage. It's on the FEDAREN's website. You will find it under the project heading. And also you can follow us on social media with the hashtag Regio1st, and feel free to ask us questions and send us emails if you have any specific interest in collaborating with the project, we'll be very happy to help. So I wish you a very good day, and thank you again for showing up and participating today. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.